And welcome to another episode of the Super Fantastic Exchange. Guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to share with you, to bring to you none other than the incomparable Rocky Garza. You guys give it up for Rocky. Woo! Can you hear him, Rocky?
I can hear him. I can hear him screaming loud.
Man, we got to let the audience die down for a second before we get started. Okay, now we can get started. Rocky, man, I'm really excited to talk to you today and hear about what inspires you, because you've done so much to inspire so many people. And so what I like to do is just kind of turn the tables around and figure out what inspires those inspirational people. But before we get started, I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So Rocky, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, Gary. I really appreciate it. My name is Rocky Garza. I live here in Dallas, Texas, Oak Cliff, more specifically, for those of you that are familiar with Dallas area. I am married. I've been married for 12 years. It'll be 13 this July, to my wife, Sarah. And we've got two little kids. We've got a 6-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. And so I say that part first, because I would say for me in my life, like, that is the outside of my ability to wrangle myself and to be a functional human being, I would say those two roles are the two things where I give the most energy, I want to make sure that I'm really focused in and say, my role as a husband and my role as a father, I think, really dictate how I'm making decisions every place else. And yes, I have my own business and things of that nature, but really for me, those are really driving factors and decision makers when it comes to what am I going to do and how am I going to spend my time and what does that look like for me. Being a husband and a father are really, really, really valuable to me. So, but as again, the professional space, I actually started. So I graduated college from Texas A&M. I went to a place called Sky Ranch out in East Texas. So it's a summer camp for kids out in East Texas. I was a counselor there in 2004, and then I was a director for junior high and senior high age kids for about 4 years there. I left there, came back to Dallas in 2008. I was actually on pastoral staff at a church up in North Dallas, Plano, Frisco area for about 3.5 or 4 years. I ended up resigning from my job there, and my wife and I started a wedding photography business, of all things, which I know makes perfect sense. Pastor, wedding photographer, go with it. So we did that for about 4.5 or 5 years together. We worked together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We didn't have any kids yet. It was awesome. And but really for us, I think for us in that time and that journey was really like an uncovering and discovering of who we were. We both were in counseling for multiple years. And I think pre-having kids really had the space to go, hey, let's really dive into ourselves, which I think really for me, really unlocked this place of where I am now and what I think really created a new passion for really taking my life experience and previous jobs and caring for people and putting all those things together is kind of how I landed here. And so I started this business about almost exactly 7 years ago, and really just started with entrepreneurs and small business owners, and we're coaching them to how do we build a business that's sustainable around who you are and the brand being a replication or a representation of you, the human being. Because if you're, as a sole proprietor, specifically as a creative sole proprietor, so many times our business is a representation of us. So if we don't know us, we don't know our business. I think did that for a few years and then realized, wait a second, I think the same is true for leaders and executives and managers in their companies, and then for our company's values and our company's brand. And if the company doesn't know who the company is, the client never knows who the company is. And so we began to see this unfolding of, well, if we really hone in, if every individual and every organization had a clear understanding of who they were, what that meant, and why that mattered, potentially we would see the return on our investment of our people come down to the return of the investment in our dollars. And so that's really where the keynote speaking part started. So now I spend about 1/3 of my time speaking, conferences, workshops, events, things like that. About 1/3 of my time coaching individuals one-on-one. So anybody, what I say is off the street coaching, anybody off the street can go to my website, check it out, and hire me to be their coach one-on-one. And then about 1/3 of my time that I would say just falls under general consulting. So that's just me spending time with organizations monthly on helping them understand their teams and their people. And, if there's a visionary in a company who can see it, there's an integrator in the company who knows how to do it. I kind of fall into, I'm the outside translator that comes in and says, how do I help these two minds work together and then put that in a way that our organization can see it.
Well, I love that. So a couple of points. I love how you kind of start with your foundation of as a husband, as a father, and then you dug into building that relationship with your wife before you guys, you started building your family. I think that's fantastic. And then the second thing you talked about, integrator and visionaries, was that, did you pull that? I love the book Traction. And such a great way to kind of pair those together. And then I love how you are that connecting piece between those two, mindsets. It really, you do need that person that can bring those together so you understand the why. So I love what you're doing, Rocky. You've got great stuff. So thank you so much for the introduction. Well, I want to get to the things that inspired you. And I had a chance to reach out to you and ask you a couple of questions. Hey, what inspires you? You shared two great things, and I want to get to both of these. The first one being clarity, confidence, courage, and conviction. These are the things that inspire you. So unpack that a little bit and share with us what that means and why does that inspire you?
Yeah, so I think on this journey of both self-discovery on my own and then obviously walking with individuals and any of the kind of, we could say, mediums, if you want, the mediums we've talked about so far. For me, I've kind of been able to categorize the journey of self-discovery and really I would say like the ownership of what is discovered. Because I think self-discovery is one thing. Like we can all look in the mirror and see something we've never seen. That's self-discovery. I've discovered something. But what we do with that, the ownership of that discovery, the ability to use that discovery, to apply that discovery, well, that takes action. But I think sometimes we either jump to the action first and go, what do I need to do to be better? And it's like, well, I don't think being better is what you need to do. I think we need to understand who we are so we can be something. If you'll just be that something, that might inevitably be better. But
wow.
So I think sometimes we like jump the gun, right? We get too far ahead of ourselves because we're I think you can use the word condition and you can hear that positive or negative. I'm going to say it neutrally. Like I think we have been conditioned in some way in order that if we can't prove why this thought or feeling I have is actionable, put into action, I can show it to you today, then the thought wasn't valid. I'm sad. Well, why? Well, maybe some days you just need to be sad. Maybe some days is a sad day and you don't have to show me why you were sad. You can just be sad. My 6-year-old, my 3-year-old are sad often. Why? We literally were just joking. Then now we're not joking. And then in 2 seconds, we're going to be joking again. And so I think there's some freedom we give at that point in our life to do that. And so anyway, as we look through each of those things, for me, it starts with clarity. Clarity is the ability to see myself. Another way to think about clarity, as I say, is do I know who I am? So clarity is the ability to see who I am. Do I understand that? I think if we begin to see, that's the reflection, that's the goodness, the truth, the beauty in who we are. We begin to see that, then I think we get to go from clarity, right? And then we get to jump into confidence. And confidence is the ability to see what is, that's clarity, and then believe that it's good. Oh. Confidence is the ability to see something and believe that it's good. I have confidence in that chair that's going to hold me. Why? Because I believe the chair is good. And so, and again, then we get into like, the difference in confirmation and affirmation. Confirmation says yes. Affirmation says yes and good. Confidence to me falls in that same category. Is clarity, do I see myself? Mm-hmm. Confidence, do I believe that it's good? Do I believe that there's value and worth there? Yeah. So far, we're 2 steps into a 4-step process. And we haven't done anything yet. No actions. We're just still internal.
Thinking, yeah.
We get to step 3 and we get to, okay, now we get to courage. First time we're going to think about action. And I just simply define courage as the ability to take a step forward, even in the midst of the fear and unknown at any pace. Yeah. Courage is not jumping off the cliff every time, right? Sometimes courage doesn't even look like doing the really, really hard, scary thing. Sometimes courage looks like saying no to the thing that you think you were supposed to do in order to wait for the thing that you need to do.
That's good.
Courage is not always just jumping for the sake of jumping, right? Yeah. Risk and courage are not always synonymous. So we get to clarity. Do I know myself? Yes. Confidence. Do I believe in myself that it's good? Yes. Mm-hmm. Courage. Can I take that goodness and I have the ability to move forward at any pace in the midst of fear and unknown? Yes. Great. The moment you take your first step in courage, what happens is there's a physiological thing that goes from your mind, do I know who I am? It goes from your heart that says, do I believe it's good? It goes from, I'm going to refer to our body that says, do I have the courage to take a step in that? Yes. Number 4, we land on conviction. Conviction is a deep-seated belief we are unwilling to waver from. And I believe every time we take a step of courage and the clarity of who we are, the confidence it's good, we have the capacity to build conviction. And conviction is long-lasting. It is enduring. It is not in your mind. It's not in your heart. I would say it kind of falls more in your soul. Somebody you can define that in whatever spiritual realm somebody wants to, wherever you are in your journey. But I would say conviction is that piece of our soul that says, I want to move like this in this way. Why? Because I know that I can. I trust that it's good because I can see myself clearly. And so that's the clarity of self, the confidence to see goodness, the courage to take a step, and the conviction that says I'm unwilling to waver regardless of what happens.
That's unbelievable. And I was taking a couple of notes as you were talking, because there are just some points that you were sharing that were just really profound. And I love how you have this process. There's these steps, and you begin with, the thinking, and, there's 2 steps that you take before you even move. And that's one of the things you mentioned. I wrote a note, was ownership. And I think that's such a powerful, concept of owning what you're thinking, owning what you're speaking, owning what you're doing. And I think that really applies to, as you go through those steps, that you're owning the action, whether it's just thinking, whether it's speaking or acting, how you go through it all. And then I really do like, and we're going to get to your book in a second, but, when you talk about, what was it, confidence, yes, and it's good. You talked about, and I think that's such a good, such a powerful, thought process, that when you're thinking these things or you're having these emotions, that it's okay, and I really love that you confirm that, and you recognize that, and that's part of the process of what inspires you. And I can imagine you kind of go through these processes quite often, and I love that, how you're sharing that with people as well. So I want to get to your second inspirational point, Rocky, and that is, you talk about your book. But before we do, I ordered a copy of your book. I read your book. I loved your book. It was absolutely incredible. So I want to share with everybody that, so I ordered the book, and it came in the mail like right away. And I got this neat little box, Rocky, it's got your name on it. That was pretty impressive. And then, on the front, it says, "You are good." So before I even opened the box, I was inspired, and I'm excited about sharing this. And so I open up the box, and inside the box, and I put it all back together, Rocky, just because I loved it so much. There's a bookmark in there. There is a, you've got this other little pamphlet in there, and you've got a sticker that reads, "You are good." And so I hadn't even opened up the book, and I was already inspired. And so I got the book, and it's in this nice wrapped, paper. It's this nice paper. And it's just, the whole presentation of this book is just, I've never experienced anything like this. And it was such a neat experience. And it gave me more, encouragement to really dig into this book, be confident. And it was just, and I think that's such a transformational moment. I think a lot of us miss opportunities to create an experience before you even get into the true experience. And I see where you applied the clarity, confidence, courage, and conviction to the presentation of this book. And I've got a couple of quotes, as you can see. I highlighted some stuff in here, and I want to bring up a couple of things. But tell us a little bit about this book, how you kind of inspired you to come about.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that there's a book that exists in real life in someone's hands other than mine is a miracle all by itself. I'm very clear about that. So, I am, for a long time, I've been speaking for a long time, and whether it was with, really for probably the last 15 or 16 years, even if it wasn't my profession to be a speaker, a part of whatever profession I was in was to speak. And so for a really long time, I mean, for any of you that are in the speaking world, or if you've gone to see speakers, it's the number one thing is you get done speaking and they got a book, they have a course, they have and I think in my own insecurity, like I thought, like, I'm not a writer. I have a hard time. Like, I don't like my handwriting. I can type kind of fast, but like, do I, 10,000 words, 20,000 words? Like, are you kidding me? I didn't want to do that in school. And so for so long, I just wrote this narrative in my head of like, you're not an author, you're not a writer, you can't do it. You're not going to write. It's not going to work. No one's going to buy it. What do you want to, and I think because probably from an element of control, like I know, and I believe that if you and I were to get face to face, whether that's via Zoom or in person, like I know that experience you can walk away from, and I believe there's impact that can be created.
Yeah.
But I doubted the ability to create something without me being in the room that I thought was actually going to help and change. And probably out of a little bit of fear too. Like, what if I do it and you get it and you think it's terrible? Now I've lost credibility. I haven't built credibility. Now I've lost the opportunity to engage you face to face. And my whole life, my survival mechanism was the ability to engage you face to face. If I could do that, knew I could be okay.
Yeah.
But now I was going to put something out in the world that someone's going to have that have never seen me. And this might be the thing. They're like, nope, no chance. I want to see that guy. And so, I think that was kind of the journey to getting to a place to where, I thought, you know what, like I need this. And honestly, like it just kind of happened. Like, I know that sounds probably a little cliche about how a book comes to be, but I found myself randomly, I was, in COVID, and I was going to give a talk to a company, to a team. And I'd spoken to them before. And so I didn't want to do the same thing I did before. And I had to start written down some notes. And so I thought, I'm just going to go with this. And I'm going to see what happens and see what it looks like. And so I just did this workshop first. That's kind of how the book came to be. Yeah. And then really from there, realized like, wait a second, I think what I said might actually be true if I flush it out outside of the ability to just talk about it, 32 minutes or less. And so I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I think there's some truth about the stories that we tell ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves and how I talk to myself. And I think that kind of coincided with the amount of people I was talking to in coaching and the same theme. And so I would test the theory out, and go, hey, I think there's a story told to you about you. I think there's a story you tell yourself. I think when those stories collide, it creates this truth, and you're living this truth. And all of a sudden I could see people kind of come alive. And this, like, I think that's right. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to create something that's my style. If I was going to buy a book, what would I want? I would want one part book. So what we're used to, read pages, one part workbook, because I want to actively look at it. I want to actively see what is there and what can I uncover and what can I dig and what can I chew on a little bit. And then one part, like, I'd really like to know about a human being and their story. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to write something small. We call it a pocket guide because it fits in your pocket. That the idea is you can read over and over and over. You read through it once and you go, okay, I uncovered this about myself. Beautiful. Do it again. Yeah. Okay, I did it again. And the hope is that it does that for people on and on and on. So it's one part book, one part workbook, one part kind of my story, and really trying to hone in and use meaningful, thoughtful, vulnerable moments of my life to go, hey, if you can see yourself in any of these, what does that look like for you? And how could you begin to uncover doubt, fear, obstacle, and insecurity based on a story that wasn't yours? Build the story that is, and hopefully that story is what allows you to be confident.
Yeah. And I tell you, it was such a wonderful read. It was, like you said, it's a pocketbook. So it's a quick read, but it's a powerful read. And I mean, there's some great, you think through it, and then there's some things that you actually actively participate in the book, and it gets you thinking. And one of the quotes I wanted to kind of read out that kind of jumped out to me, if you're comfortable, I'm going to read a little bit of your book. To find a clear picture of who we are, we have to uproot the doubt. We must begin by unweaving of these false narratives about our lives so we can recreate the tapestry of who we really are. And you touched on that about the stories we tell ourselves, and are they actually true? And it was such a great book to read because it really made you stop and think and say, hey, are these stories that I'm telling myself, are they accurate, and where do they come from? And, Rocky, you did such a well job. I have to applaud you. You did a great job with the book, and I can see how that is an inspiration for you and other people as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's it's one of those moments where people keep asking me, what's it like? What's it like? The book's done. What's it like? And, there's one part of it, the simple and true answer is like, it's awesome. Like, it feels like, I have a couple of my, they're everywhere. You order a bunch at one time of show. So I got books in my car, I got books. So, and so my kids, I pick up from school, and there's a few in the back seat. And so it's fun. Like, my kids will pick it up, and my son, he's like, be confident, Rocky Garza. And he's like, your name's Rocky Garza. I'm like, you're right. My name is Rocky. Daddy, that's the book that Daddy wrote, And he's like, well, what does it say? And I'm like, well, let's get into it, that part feels good. And then I think at the same time, and I think this, and hopefully this translates into a multitude of arenas for anybody who's listening. It also, in full transparency, like, it also feels like the cheap medal that you get after you run a 5K or after you run a half marathon. Yeah. Like you get it at the end because you did it, right? Like, they're like, hey, well done. Like, whichever your time was. and everybody gets one, and you go home and like you hang it on your wall for like a week, and you're like, this is ridiculous, and then you throw it away, or it's in your trunk, or it's like in your gym bag or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, it's not that it's not valuable, but I think for myself, and I hope this again, this translates into whatever things folks are going through, working on, trying to improve or look at or accomplish for this year. I can say with full confidence, as wonderful it is to have a book in my hand, the journey and the experience and the understanding of myself to get to that place is exponentially different. Yeah. And so like, I wrote a book.
Yeah. You did.
I Rocky, like closed the loop. Like I had an idea and I saw it all the way to the end. And that's not normally like the Rocky Garza way, you know? Like, I'm like 90% faster than most. Let's go. Who's next? You know, like that's not my, and so I think the fact that has happened, to me, that journey, it's like every mile you run to get ready for that marathon, the marathon you did, it's the 6 months that you ran and it hurt and it was hard that you went like, you know what, I can do hard things to accomplish big things. Yeah. And I think that's what the book has been like for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rocky, you've been absolutely wonderful. It's been great chatting with you. We're getting close to the end of our time. It's gone by so fast. But before we leave, I want to give you a chance to share a closing thought with us.
Yeah, you know, I think my closing thought would be one, buy a book. I think my closing thought would be, you know, there's a lot of research. I don't want to say infinite, because that's a little aggressive, but I mean there are thousands and thousands, if not millions, of resources available at our fingertips, from books to ebooks to downloadable things to YouTube to a friend to your cousin to there's a wide variety of ways that we can find the support and help and growth that we need. But I can almost guarantee you, regardless of the resource that you pick, until you are willing to look in the mirror and believe that the person that you are looking at is worthy and valuable and carries enough weight and dignity to put forth the effort to see that person grow and change, don't buy the book. The resource doesn't matter. Yeah. And so whatever it is in your life that you need to communicate the things that are hard, to talk about what is difficult, to ask someone. I'm 38 now. At 35, I sat down with a friend over tacos and margaritas and at lunch on a Wednesday and said, hey, do you want to be my best friend? And it was weird and clunky and awkward. And I was crying over, you know, carnitas. And I'm like, what is happening in my life? But no one I wasn't going to make room for anyone to step into my life as a best friend until I was willing to look at me in the mirror and say, I deserve a best friend. I deserve to have somebody in my corner. I got to do the hard thing and have the conversation. And it's been amazing. It's been hard and ridiculous, and just like it is at any age. But, you know, I think my hope and encouragement, I like to use the word challenge and encouragement synonymously. I know they're not synonymous, but I like to pretend they are. My challenge and encouragement for anybody listening is make sure that you're doing due diligence and giving yourself the time to look in the mirror and say, hey, who is the person I see reflected back to me? Do I know them? Do I understand them? And do I believe they are valuable enough for me to put forth the work to see them grow? Yeah.
I love that. Rocky, that's I'll drop the mic. We're done. That was great. Rocky, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Please go grab a copy of this book, Be Confident, even if you're not sure of who you are. This is a great book. It's a conversation that really helps you get there. Rocky's done a wonderful job putting this together. Rocky, how can people connect with you if they're interested in connecting with you?
Yeah. So you can just go to rockygarza.com. It's just ROCKYGARZA. You can go to rockygarza.com. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the platforms. It's just at Rocky Garza. There's not a lot of us out there, so it should be pretty easy to find. Worst case scenario, Google my name, look for the bald head and the eyebrows. You should be able to find me. I'm out there. And then if you're interested in getting a copy of the book, you can either go to my website, rockygarza.com, or you can go straight to beconfidentbook.com, and it'll take you right to it and get a copy. And anytime you order one of those, they ship out every Monday afternoon. So we ship them out once a week. So just we'd love to get you a copy. And if you order one and you heard it here, put that in the notes when you order it. So maybe we'll send you something a little special for
that's awesome
for listening to the Super Fantastic Show.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. Hey, guys, grab you a copy of the Be Confident book by Rocky Garza. Rocky, thank you so much. Guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Super Fantastic Exchange. You guys go follow Rocky. Go check him out. Grab the book. It's totally worth it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.